What up, everybody? This is Mr. View, and today we're going to be talking about World War II. Yesterday, we found out that the Germans went against the Nazi-Soviet pact, that deal between Hitler and Stalin. They go against it, and they attack the Soviet Union. So even though they had a deal, Hitler says, no, and I'm attacking. Why did he attack the Soviet Union? Because they had a lot of resources. He hated communism, and they had a lot of land. So he figured if they owned that wealth and had that land, they could spread out, and Germany would be unstoppable. At this point, he has made his way through Europe. He has dominated Europe, except for England, who he has teetering on the cusp of surrender. But Winston Churchill and England will not give up. They said, we will not surrender. So Germany goes against that Nazi-Soviet pact. The USA, we're supposed to be neutral at this point, right? We're not taking either side. We're just sitting this one out. Although we like the Allies a lot better than the Axis. That's faux show. Until December 7th, 1941. On December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, right? We all know about Pearl Harbor. Japan attacks us. It was a sneak attack, a surprise attack, and bam, they blew up 19 of our ships and killed 2,400 people. That's a big deal. Now, you might think, 19 ships. Big deal, right? But these were big, important ships to our Navy and aircraft carriers and things like that. So it was a disaster for us. They attacked us. We were shocked, had no idea, and we decided to declare war. Now, why did Japan do this? Well, mainly because we stopped trading with them. We did not like what they were doing with China, right? That they had attacked China and were taking them over, and there's these stories of cruelty and torture and things like that. So we said, Japan, we're not going to trade with you anymore. They didn't like that. They bomb us. That brings us into World War II because we declare war on Japan at that point. Japan is a part of the Axis. They have allies, right? And so their Axis is Germany, Italy, and themselves. So immediately, Germany and Italy, they declare war on us, and we are in. We are part of the allies. So now you've got the Axis, Germany, Italy, Japan, Bulgaria, Hungary, and all those other countries that have joined or been taken over by the Axis. On the other side, the good guys, we've got France, who's already surrendered, England, who's already beat up, the Soviet Union, who's slow and getting whooped at this point, and good old America coming in to save the day. So this is what's going on. Japan immediately starts to attack our islands in the Pacific Ocean also, not just had taken Pearl Harbor, beaten up on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, but now they start attacking our islands throughout the Pacific Ocean. So they're taking us over pretty good. They force us out of the Philippines and things like that. They're very brutal. They kill us. They torture our people. They enslave the people that they capture. In 1942, they do the Bataan Death March. And this is bad. This is in the Philippines, and 75,000 U.S. soldiers, Filipinos, had to go on a 65-mile march. So you don't think of 65 miles being very much. However, that's basically to Lansing and back, right? And it's in the sweltering heat. And so for 5 days, they had to march. During this march, they weren't given any food, water, or anything like that. And if they fell behind, they were shot or bayoneted. Bayonets are those pointy things at the end of rifles, right? That's a bad way to die. So for 5 days, they were beaten, starved, and killed along this walk. 6,000 to 11,000 people died. It's called the Bataan Death March for a reason, right? A lot of people died. Very brutal way. The big three came about. And these are the three leaders, main three leaders, on the Allied side. The big three consisted of Winston Churchill from England, Joseph Stalin from the Soviet Union, and FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt from good old US of A. And these guys were the ones making the decisions. Hey, how are we going to defeat the Axis powers and especially knock Hitler out of Europe? And they did it starting with total war in their own countries, right? They went ration goods. We talked about this before. You only get X amount of this or X amount of gallons of gas or whatever. So they ration their goods. They also use propaganda and censorship. They censor the press. The press within the United States could only say positive things about us and pretty much negative things about the Axis, Italy, Japan, and especially Germany. They made war goods. So instead of factories making refrigerators or toasters or whatever, they're making things for the war, whether it was artillery or weaponry or whatever it was. They were making those goods as opposed to household goods. You saw this with the beginning of the coronavirus, right? Ford Motor Plant started making ventilators instead of car parts. So we did this kind of way before in World War II. We also used the draft, conscription, right? Anybody that was 18 and older had to register for the draft, males that is. And if you were drafted, your name was called, you had to go off to war. So they did the draft also. And people didn't fight the draft. They for this time period, it was more seen as a duty than anything else. So these people weren't really upset to go to the war. Yes, it was a scary time and things, but they would go. All right. So now we are in. Now the United States is in the war because of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. This is a big mistake for the Axis, right? They just drew in the Soviet Union, who's this huge country, and now they draw in the United States, another huge, powerful country. So they're bringing some bad people in as enemies to the Axis. They should have waited a little bit longer if they actually wanted to win the war, because we know that America is bringing the thunder and a couple atomic bombs a little bit later. So we'll talk about that the next few days, but have a great day.